Hey, folks, we're live again, and we're back. And apologize for the technical difficulties on the first end. This is the second part of the stream, so I know the first one's already processing. That was unusual, but we're talking Kansas City Chiefs, Oakland at the Oakland Raiders, NFL Las Vegas preview. I already mentioned in the first, like, the Cal is bowl eligible, and I unintentionally wrapped up, but I was in the middle of introducing my friend, the great Ohio State Robert Brown, talking about Robert. He didn't leave.
Yeah.
He's
no,
here.
Most assuredly.
He's here.
Most assuredly, I'm here.
And he's got, and we're going to talk about this again too, folks. But Mr. Brown has an exciting project that involves the great Jack Tatum. The man who, if you follow the NFL and you follow the Raiders for some time, you will remember as the person called the Assassin, but also, and the person who, put that hit on Dale Stingley. And Robert, I don't know if I ever told you this, I was actually at that game.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, preseason game. Yeah, I was. Mm-hmm. I had my binocs trained on Daryl Stingley. And then I lost sight of him for a split second. And I heard this resounding crack. And that was it.
Uh-huh.
And didn't realize the severity of what had happened at that point until much later after the game. But yeah, I'll never forget that as long as I live. But Robert.
And it's interesting, Sandy. I tell people that was among hits. That was one of Jack Tatum's big hits. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Number one. Number two, you couldn't paralyze a guy if you tried to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
People say that in some form of like he had some. You couldn't. What he did is that he had his head down. The things that the NFL tells you not to do, Daryl Stingley actually did, and hence the paralysis, and there's only been one other guy who's been paralyzed since that time on the field, and so on the professional field. So, that's one of those unintended consequences of the way the game played then.
Yeah.
And last two things I'll say is that we also explore the change in the game, the change in the game in terms of money. Jack always told me that they never made one rule for the defense. Every rule that's ever been made has been to enhance offense. That's number one. Number two, just the money associated with the game. All the things that have changed with the game, from the time when Jack came in the league, which was in 1971, until today, including the time he was there. But it's been an incredible change in the game. And it's one of the things too that we explore as we're creating the template for the documentary. Hey,
so how did the idea for this documentary? What is it? Does it have a working title?
Well, no, actually, yeah, we got a working title. Yeah, we just kind of had a working title, Jack Tatum, the documentary. But we're developing ideas, and we've got a lot of support. For example,
hey, hold that thought. I gotta see what my mom is on. Yeah, I'm on live, Mom.
Yeah, try to get you some sleep.
Yeah, okay. I'm on live. Okay. All right. So, you're back?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, okay, cool. There you go. All right, sorry again.
Yeah. So anyway, just, creating story angles that really talk about not only Jack, but the things associated with the game, the transformation. People don't really recognize the transformation of the game from the 60s, which was a brooding, kind of let's beat each other up, to much more superior athletes associated with guys like Jack Tatum. As the game got bigger, it got the transition from the 60s when baseball was America's favorite game to the 70s that was overtaken by football, and by far football is America's game. So those are some of the areas that we're going to move forward on.
Hey, so I want your opinion on something because of what's happened this week. The A's unveiled their stadium plan up here in Oakland. Well, actually, up there in Oakland, because I'm in Fayetteville, Georgia. You're in LA, and then there's Oakland. They unveiled their idea of a new Coliseum, or I should say, new Coliseum land. They totally erased the stadium. It looked like they erased the Raiders out of existence. It's just Oracle Arena. What is it that? What do you take away from how the Raiders have treated the city of Oakland and how the city of Oakland has treated the Raiders in this? How do you think this history will be remembered?
Very interesting you say that, because I talked to a friend today. Now, just as a frame of reference, I used to be on the Coliseum board for about 5 years.
That's right.
And so I was part of watching the interworkings of this. I'd say a couple things. Number one, I would say that in retrospect, the city did not manage the Raiders transition, and hence the Raiders' existence in Oakland well, because the emotional, I just say the emotional connection of having the Raiders back was stronger than the rational part of making a decision. Number two, I would say, is that the Raiders really have not been a well-managed organization before or after, as businesses go. Not had a strong corporate sponsorship support. They really haven't done a real good job on maintaining and handling their season ticket holders. But they have been a good organization in grabbing money wherever they went. And the other is keeping the Raider legacy alive when the product on the field was definitely not consistent with that. Again, it's like when I talk about Jack Tatum, I said, if you take Charles Woodson and Khalil Mack away from the equation, there's not been a real defensive player that the Raiders have had since they've been back from Oakland, been back to Oakland. So therefore, the whole mystique associated with Raiders is, in fact, just an emotional kind of thing. So it's
you hit on something. You're absolutely right, because the Raiders of the pre-LA period were known for 11 angry men on defense.
There you go.
Right, Big Ben Davidson, Phil Villapiano,
Ted Hendricks.
The Mad Stork, as we call him, and Fred the Hammer Williamson. Willie Brown, or as Bill King said, Old Man Willie. And Super Bowl 11 video, and of course, we're talking about, when I think of Jack Tatum, I think of that play where he hit Sammy White over the middle. Remember that? And he just sort of threw his hands down like, done. And then, of course, family friend, I don't know if you ever knew this, or maybe I did tell you, but it's been a long time since we talked. Otis Sistrunk was a great friend of my mom's. And came over to our house in 1976. And that's how I wound up getting interested in pro football, because I figured, I had to learn something about it. I was into Star Trek, right? But you're right. Since the Raiders returned on defense, we've had Woodson, and we've had Khalil Mack, right, as stars in terms. But you struggle to remember the defensive stars. They don't roll off your tongue.
That's exactly my point. I'm saying, listen, the Raiders had a nice offense, but the Raiders were known nationally for their aggressive, and as you called it, I hadn't heard that before, but it looks like a brand new movie title too, called 11 Angry Men, okay? Rather than 12 Angry Men, it's 11. And so that's the imagery that is being put around the country, here in law. I mean, wherever you go, it's Raiders, and that was created from the defensive side of the ball. And so again, if you talk about who kind of upheld that whole Raider mystique in the last 20 years or whatever the time period the Raiders have been back, 15 years, it is clearly Khalil Mack, who they just let go. I mean, literally let it walk. And Charles Woodson. Other than that, I asked people all that, who else? And they kind of mentioned a couple people, but, you know, went to the Pro Bowl once or twice, but that's not, you know, that's not legacy. So
no, there isn't anyone that just easily rolls off my tongue. I was thinking about the USC defensive end, Darryl. He didn't last long, and linebacker. You can't think of anybody that was iconic during the time that they returned. There were no Romanowskis, you know. You don't think about them. We haven't had anyone like Carl Joseph at safety for a long time. So, yeah, I mean, our defense, you're right. Our defense has been moribund. And not only that, what do they say? Offense sells tickets, defense wins championships. And so,
absolutely.
But then, and the irony about the whole Khalil Mack issue is the person, well, first of all, I don't really blame John Gruden for Khalil Mack. I blame Mark Davis. And the reason is that, I do have a correction. Nnamdi Asamoah was very good. And one of the viewers chimed in. He said, David, you know.
But here's what I'll say.
Yeah.
That, you know, he had a couple good years. Okay. But, you know, when we got him, he was on the downside of his career. You know, and so his all-pro years were, you know, more with the Eagles, and I can't remember who else he was with him, but not like he was a good player. And again, that's what I said. He was good. He probably had one or two good years with the Raiders that put him in the.
But that's true, though. You're right, though. I mean, because he came back and it was more like he's coming home because he went to Cal. Go Bears! You know, but you're absolutely right. I mean, it actually feeds into the whole point that we're making in this conversation. Hey, by the way, when we had the mishap with the first part of this feed, you were talking about a GoFundMe page for
right. Everything that we have is that, like, if you go to Jack Tatum documentary on Instagram, Jack Tatum documentary on Twitter, and we are just finalizing the elements of the GoFundMe page, which should be up within the next 3 or 4 days. And specifically, it's to create a trailer. We've got a lot of footage. The Raiders have, now in this particular case, the Raiders have been very helpful, providing us a tremendous amount of visuals from their archives.
Nice.
So we got a lot of great photos from Jack. About Jack during this time. We say digitized, and so the quality is really, really good. We've got a lot of archival information that we developed. Jack also had a lot of interviews that he had, and it's very interesting because how perception becomes reality. Well, when Jack played, no one called him the assassin. When they created the book, you know, that became his moniker. But when he played, you know, no one called Jack Tatum that. They called him hard hitting Jack Tatum. Pretty much, that was the adjective that's used. So we're working on the final elements on that to do a trailer. John Madden, his wife Virginia just loved Jack, and we're going to interview John, George Atkinson, a bunch of Ohio State people to create a trailer to tell the story as we move forward. And in terms of where we want it to land, the only thing I want to make sure is that it talks about Jack from the perspective of people who knew him. You know, I don't want a hit piece. Okay. It's not like we're not going to acknowledge Darryl Stingley, but what we want to make sure is that we want to have a comprehensive look at who Jack Tatum was. He was an All-American high school player. He was All-American at Ohio State. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame. And as a matter of fact, they just awarded the Big Ten Defensive Back of the Year, is named after two Raiders, Jack Tatum and Rod Woodson. And so they just named it this year. And so I want the totality of who Jack was as an incredible athlete and a wonderful human being. And so that's part of the story, Zenny.
Hey, does he have any surviving family members?
Yes, he's got a daughter, Justin, who goes out to she goes out to when they have the matter of fact, I'm pretty sure she's going out to the game in Indianapolis where the Big Ten championship is this past weekend. So representing Jack. He also has another son, Lewis, and his surviving widow, Denise.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one of my viewers, Barry Lee, asks, he says, what does Mr. Brown think of the latest renderings for the new A's ballpark?
Well, if you look at all ballparks today, they're much more commercial about the bigger scheme than it is about the ballpark. It's about the real estate. It's about all the accoutrements that are around the ballpark. So, right now it has to come to light to me because it's just a rendering right now. But I know if you look at probably the last 8 to 10 stadiums, I mean, it's really not about the stadium. It's about all the real estate associated with the stadium.
Right. Yeah. The ballpark village concept is
absolutely. That was called. I've not heard that term, but I completely embrace it.
Yeah. It's that started back with the St. Louis Cardinals, and Lou Wolf tried to implement it in Oakland, but in 2005 to 2007 that failed. And now the Atlanta Braves have a version out at SunTrust Park, which is 62 acres. The LA Rams have, you might call it a football ballpark, football village, or football village concept going up. So yeah, the reason is that it's an attempt to cobble together revenues from different land uses and also different lands. So, and if you have land that you want to have a developer build on it, you're the master developer, you can sell that land to that developer, and you take that money, use it for construction costs for your stadium, and
absolutely.
Take your rents and everything else. The next thing you know, you cobble together funds from all these different sources, and voila, you have stadium financing. That's the idea.
Yes.
So yeah, hey, first of all, do you realize that we're going to go down in history? And I still think this should be a focus of a celebration. And self-servingly, we will go down, you and I, as the only people to try to bring the Super Bowl to Oakland. And we got to celebrate that, man. I don't, don't you think?
Oh, of course, we put a lot of effort in it, and you really did a masterful job of spearheading, some activities. When we know that we were the salmon swimming upstream, because how most of the league felt about Al Davis.
Yeah,
and we put together a really well put together document and presentation. But at the end of the day, listen, I always felt that, we were going for the classic Hail Mary, because, at the end of the day, we really recognized that no one would fight for Al, with Al Davis as an ally. And as you well know, as you get later on in life, you start recognizing that so much of what happens in life is about relationships, and Al didn't have good ones.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And I think the other thing that is the biggest takeaway for me is I felt like we were fighting against negative civic pride. Every time I go to work, I had someone tell me, hey, you're not going to get the Super Bowl. These are people paid by the city of Oakland in various capacities who would go out of their way to say that. And I literally had to pump myself up in the morning by arguing. And then I had this mantra, and I would just make people say Super Bowl Oakland. I even worked on. I'll never forget. There was a construction worker that would always joke about it as I was heading to the elevator. So I worked on him for 2 solid weeks, and finally he said, "It's Super Bowl Oakland." I mean, it was a lesson in how Oakland, I think, almost psychologically insists on taking a back seat to San Francisco. You know?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
It's like, well, even Jerry Brown said it when he was mayor. Well, he said it to a group of business people that came over from China. Hey, I don't know why we're going after the Super Bowl. That's San Francisco. They should be doing it. I'm like, what? You know. So, but having said all that, I mean, met a lot of great people like yourself. Still know, and it really changed my life. I think what I chomp at the bit about is I keep thinking, gee, what if we did get it? You know, how would my life have changed? And I think part of it is I think they would have tried to take it from me anyway.
Oh, sure.
You know, because Jerry and Robert were kind of setting that up anyway, but they had no idea. You know who told me that?
Who was that?
Jim Steig, the senior vice president of the National Football League, told me that. He told me that they called him and were asking him questions about my Super Bowl bid behind my back. That I had already given them, you know, questions I had already given them the answers to. And I'm aware I'm saying this live and it's being recorded. But look, you know, I had my buddy Lars Frickman died in his sleep after 40 years. And so you get to a point in your life where you think, why am I holding back on this stuff that happened to me that people should not have done, right? And like Robert Bob, I consider to this day a mentor, had him on the show, but facts are facts. And maybe Jerry had him do that, which I think was the key case. But nonetheless, and that what happened was that Jerry Brown who's now our governor, he didn't pay attention. He didn't realize the importance of what we were doing, so we started getting positive press.
Well, because he didn't believe in it.
Right.
Yeah, so it's what you really learn, Jenny. If somebody doesn't believe in something at its core, it just doesn't work. You know, and so he didn't believe in it.
No. I mean, but I think one thing is for that, Jerry did give one of the best speeches I've ever heard anybody give in politics in my entire life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when you walked into our presentation in Atlanta in 2000. Ironic that I'm here now, right? But the Super Bowl is here. But Jerry walked in, and I'll never forget it. We were at the Hyatt Regency Atlanta in the ballroom, and Commissioner Tagliabue said, Governor Brown, because he had been governor anyway. And, the NFL has I call it the old school protocol, which is whatever your highest position was in political life, that's how they refer to you. And so before he was mayor of Oakland, he was governor of California. Governor Moonbeam. Yeah. So he didn't, of course, Commissioner Tagliabue didn't call him that, but he said Governor Brown. And the one thing, when we came up to give our presentation, we were supposed to have 5 chairs. We had 4. So, and we had rehearsed the night before, and I had to figure out, who gets to stand. I made myself the person that stood in back, right? So, and so Jerry got up and he joked about how the Palace Hotel in San Francisco, he says, we even have a place where a president was shot. And the room started busting up. And he goes, yeah. This is all off the cuff, And he says, yeah, the Palace Hotel. He says, he said, we're on the map for that. And that's something to be proud of. And when he said that, the room just fell out, man.
Great memories.
Yeah. And that warmed him up. And he basically said, why would you want to go to a place like Florida? Why would you want to go anywhere but California, Oakland? And he says some other things. He says, look, this is my Hail Mary. I'm throwing it, catch it. And that's how he ended the speech. And it was like, he got an ovation. He got a standing ovation. And I think, and I came away, I had 2 thoughts at the same time. I thought, wow, we might win with that speech. And then I thought, if he had gotten his butt involved earlier, we would have won. So it was both of those. Hey, so I got to ask you too. What do you think of LeBron with the Lakers? And why do I get this feeling that there's this concerted effort to revive LA sports?
Oh, come on, Zenny, it's very simple. United States is driven its capitalism, okay? And nothing has more imagery than Los Angeles. Although New York is still bigger, Los Angeles creates much more imagery. It is when the Lakers win and the ratings are higher. And so, and LeBron, who's bigger in the sport than LeBron? So, it's a case of how can we create more revenue? I call old revenue all of the above, and LeBron fits that. And he's a charismatic character. He's a person that evokes responses, emotional responses. And it always gets me is how so many people hate on LeBron, but to be, character-wise, he's a pretty strong guy. So it's a case of him, being able to create, to be able to create some dynamics that only LA can completely appreciate. And so come on, it's always about the money.
Hey, I got to ask you. I wanted LeBron to come to the Warriors. What do you think about that idea?
Oh God, no! That would be an embarrassment of riches. It really would be. It would be a complete embarrassment of riches, and him coming to the Warriors. And then not only that, for his personal legacy, that would create not much for him. I mean, to a certain extent, you can see even what it's doing for Kevin Durant. It's like, okay, this train was rolling on before without you. And so, anytime you kind of look at something like that, you start realizing that for LeBron, that would have been, at least from my perspective, the smartest of moves.
Are you saying that you don't think Kevin Durant's a good fit?
No, he's a good fit, but I'm saying in terms of what he added to a team that was already doing very well.
Right.
His legacy was not enhanced by his move to the Warriors. And he's a great player, so I'm not even, saying anything condescending. But it's the point I'm making relative to making the conversation on LeBron.
Right.
Why would he come to a team that is already at the top of the food chain versus going somewhere? And then the other part of it is, quiet as it's kept, the Lakers haven't been in the playoffs in 5 years.
No, they haven't.
Forget about winning. You haven't been in the winning party.
Right. No, I mean, I'm not saying the Lakers don't need LeBron. I just was intrigued with the idea of LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Andre Iguodala all playing together.
Yeah.
That I couldn't see anything other than that, and I thought that would be magical. You could rewrite record books. And then my thought was that, look, LeBron is 34 now, and he can't take over a game as often as he used to. But if you put him in roles and you give him spurts, the next thing you know, you've got the best of him on a team where if he happens to fall off, somebody else can pick up the slack. He can get his rest, come back, play strong again, and go out with a ring. In other words, he wouldn't be, because I think it's happening in LA, he wouldn't be playing his heart out around people who are lesser in talent than he.
All right, well, let's give you another perspective. How about this?
Okay.
Is as a franchise maker, if he goes to Los Angeles and takes them to the promised land, then his legacy is everywhere I go.
Yeah,
I change it, change the whole landscape.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he goes to Golden State Warriors, they won 72 games one year, and so LeBron comes in and wins 68, and they say, "Oh, what a failure."
Mm-hmm.
So what he can do with young guys down in Los Angeles and whoever else they get, I think he can make something happen. So,
here's the other thought too. Is that the other thought that I thought was personal for him. I felt that if he were in the Bay Area, LeBron, he could really join with Kevin Durant and Draymond Green and Steph Curry and really tap into the tech community in terms of the investments. Because Andre Iguodala actually is even the bigger example, because I personally seen, and I have on my video with Zenny62 on YouTube, Iguodala at TechCrunch Disrupt, which is a convention for the tech community, right? And he was touting himself as an open investor and has a portfolio of some impressive startups. And so these guys, and I mean these guys, I mean Andre Iguodala, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson in particular, and Kevin Durant. Now they invest in startups around the Bay Area, and I thought LeBron could add to that, and they might come up with some sort of sports themed company. You never know where they could take it. That's what I was thinking.
Well, I would suggest to you is that LeBron's interest is not in the tech world; it's in the entertainment world and the visual arts world, and he went right to the center of that. So I know what you're saying on a bigger scale on what tech can do, but what LeBron has done, as you can obviously see, he's got a production company.
Oh yeah, I pay attention. He's got the Undefeated, right?
Yeah,
yeah. Oh yeah, and I'm not taking anything away from that. I was just thinking that since they were already friends and they had other business interests, it just seemed like the logical next step, right? That's what I was thinking. It was like, hey, So,
I get you.
Hey, man, I want to have you back. I got to have you back. I mean, because this was sort of like it kind of came together.
Great, and I'm great. I'm glad that it did, and you're right. And you and I need to just have a good conversation so I can really share and how I can be of value to you and what you're doing now.
You got it.
I think I can.
You got it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you go because I have to catch a flight, and I'm gonna close out the show here. And I got a prediction for the Raiders game. Oh, and before I do, I got to do my Las Vegas update. But you give me your Raiders game prediction while I'm looking up this Las Vegas information.
I will have to tell you, it would be a loyalist to the extreme to think that the Raiders can even be close to this high-powered Kansas City. Kansas City offense. That offense is just it's like a video game offense. They got players all over who can hit home runs with a coach that knows how to hit homers. And so I would be happy if the Raiders had enough that it can allow them to be somewhat close in the beginning of the fourth quarter. And I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah. You got a score, though?
If I were a wagering man, I would probably say 42-17.
Oh, 42 to. There you go, 42-17. I'm gonna say Raiders. I'm gonna pick an upset.
Man,
I'm gonna pick an upset,
okay.
Knowing full well it's not gonna happen. And then when it does happen, I could just say I was a genius. All right. I could just put myself on the back and all that stuff. But all right, seriously, Oakland 24, Kansas City 23. 1 point. That'll be the only scenario where the Raiders would win. That's the only one I can see. Now I'm gonna give you two. I'm gonna give you two. That's one. The other one is Kansas City 35, Oakland nothing. Okay, because that's the other one.
I believe they're going to score. I just don't believe there'll be a multitude of scores that's going to allow it to happen. So.
Well, that's why they play the game, and like I say, as Herm Edwards, Herm Edwards has done really well, hasn't he?
Absolutely, so I love Herm Edwards. Number one, I love him because he is a marketing guy's dream. He always has something great to say. And my favorite one, which I utilized with my son who had played college basketball, he said, "Nothing good for an athlete happens after 12 o'clock."
He did say that.
And listen, whenever you see almost any problems happen, they happen after 12 midnight.
He did say that. Yeah, nothing good. Yeah.
Wait a minute. The reason he said it because Denny, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Listen, this has been pretty incredible. I will stay in contact with you. My blessing to your mom.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Because at the end of the day, and the funny is, I'm leaving on Saturday morning to go see my 91-year-old mom back in Ohio.
Wow. God bless your mom, man. God bless your mom.
Yep. So that's what I'm excited. She's still living by herself, and so we're pretty excited about going back to. My wife and I are both going back to see her.
Nice, man. Hey, my prayers are with you.
Thank you, man, and safe travels, Denny.
All right, you too, and we'll talk more Jack Tatum.
All right, most assuredly. Talk to you, buddy.
All right, see you.
Bye now.
So, folks, that was the great Robert Brown. Robert helped me on the 2005 Super Bowl bid from between 1999 and 2001. And we came to within 8 NFL owner votes of bringing the 2005 Super Bowl that Jacksonville won to Oakland. So he's got a new project, documentary on Jack Tatum. And you would say, you know, why? I think Tatum is an Ohio State man, as is Robert Brown. He wants to make sure Robert Brown does that Jack Tatum's legacy is properly fashioned. So there. So anyway, that's where we're at. As far as Las Vegas news, you know, I have to say the stadium is coming along, but they made some changes to it. I'm looking at the stadium cam right now, and when I think about the stadium, from the standpoint of the model that was produced, that the artist rendition that matched the timestamps, there's a video of it. What's going on in reality is different from where they said they were going to be. And so it looks like they made some adjustments. So, for example, there's one side of the stadium toward the freeway that's more developed than the other, with the steel rebar and everything. And so you can only see it from one side, but you have to actually take a look at it from multiple sides versus the drawing that they came up with, the video that has the artist rendition of the stadium matched to the different dates. But as I look at it, and I look at it close up, it looks like what they decided to do was build one side of it first and erect it and not the other. And so there's a reason for that. What that reason is, I don't know. But it's not, it seems to fit the report where they were late getting steel rebar. And so it's like they decided to build what they had for one side, but they didn't do it for the other. So I can't say, so it looks like the stadium is ahead of schedule when really it's not. Okay, interesting. So it's difficult to find out unless you really talk to people on the inside exactly where they're at. I am told from others who have friends working on the project, they are behind schedule. Just by how much is you have to estimate. But that said, it's coming along, it's taking shape, it's forming, and I can see where they've dug out more ground area from it. They've still got a long way to go, folks. This is a big project, and I don't think it should be rushed. You know, I don't understand the reason for rushing it at all. So so there you go. All right. Predictions we have. Bible study says 24-3 Chiefs over the Raiders. Joseph Morales says 21-23 Raiders win. And Barry Lee says, have a good night and a safe flight. Patrick Blackman, how are you? Got something I'm sending your way, by the way. And okay, so it's 12:08. I'm going to sign off early because I mentioned I'm traveling tomorrow. Thank you all very, very much, and go Raiders. I'll see you.